All right, our video for today is Chapter 1, Lesson 6, and the topic is scatter plots. Scatter plots. All right, so let's look at this table over here on the left. Notice that I have years going down the X column. So over in this picture, years have been plotted on the X axis. My range, my Y values, are population. Population has been put on the Y axis. This dot right here represents 40 and a little bit over 100. Let's look at that, 1940 and 108. The title says Population of Tampa, Florida, 1940 to 2000. So in 1940, Tampa had 108,000 people, population in the thousands, 108. So 1940, we have a dot right here. This dot for 1950 is 125, and so forth. So they took all of these years, all of these populations, they turned them into ordered pairs. So they did 1940, 108, 1950, 125, and so on. Notice that they have these dots, but the dots are not connected. They are scattered. So that's the name scatter plot. We don't connect them into a line graph because then our title would say line graphs. We have scattered dots. They're not connected to each other. They're just loosey-goosey. We have a table of values. We create a scatter plot. So what we want to do is look at the scatter plot and ask ourselves, do I notice any trends? Can I see a trend? Trend is kind of a fancy word for pattern. Do I see a pattern? And I could say, yeah, I see a pattern. As the years kept going on in time, so I guess you'd call them years got bigger, 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 then we kept having a greater population. Now there's a huge jump right here from 1950 to 1960. But in general, we have the numbers, the population going up, and the years going up. You're going to have some homework on this lesson, and some of the homework will give you a table. This table is going sideways, this table went up and down, but you're going to have homework that's going to give you a table, and you need to create the scatter plot. So the biggest question is, how are you going to count on your axes? So you need to count the same amount. Okay, so we counted by 50s, 50, 100, 150, 200. This should have had a little squiggle in it because you can't go from 0 to 40 and then start counting by tens. So I think they meant to put a little break in there. So we have to go from 2000 to 2009. And we need to go, looks like 160. Yep, 160 is my lowest, and my highest is 257. So I would need to count and create a graph that had seasons along the x-axis, number of field goals along the y-axis. So along my x-axis, I need to count 2000, 2001, 2002, 2003, all the way up to 2009. And along the y-axis, I'm going to do a little break and start at 160 and go to 260. Then I need to think of this table as ordered pairs. So the season 0, 0, 160 field goals. That's my X, that's my Y. I come over and I make a dot at 0, 0, and 160. And so on. So you would continue making dots. You do not connect them. Give me a title, and you're finished. All right, there are 3 basic patterns your scatter dots could start doing this pattern. Your scatter dots could do this pattern, or your scatter dots could do this. So we call the first pattern a positive trend. We call the second one a negative trend. And we call the third one no trend. So I think the third one is the easiest. This doesn't look like it's doing anything. Maybe if I add a few more. So they're just random. The dots are random. There's no real pattern. They're just equally spaced out. They're kind of all over the board. Positive is going, if you were walking on a hill, you would say, I'm going up the hill. In this case, I'm going down the hill. You can't walk up the hill backwards. So left to right, I'm going uphill. Left to right, I'm going downhill. So you can think of it that way too. Another way you can think of it as positive trends, as one thing gets bigger, the other thing gets bigger. Now, what do I mean by that thing? What thing? Well, it depends on our chart. But if I go back over to this chart, as the year got bigger, the population got bigger. As the year got bigger, so this one I would consider a positive trend. It would be nice if it was just a little more straight, but as the year gets bigger, the population is also getting bigger. A negative trend would be as one idea gets bigger, the other idea gets smaller. So I'm not sure if you've ever thought about this, but as people get older, elderly people, they start losing their hair. Maybe your grandparents have started losing their hair. A lot of times it's the guys, it's the dads, it's the grandpas. So I say that because that would be an example of a negative trend. As a person's age gets bigger, older, the number, when they were little, they started off with a lot of hair, and then as they got older, they started losing their hair. So as one thing gets bigger, another thing gets smaller. As age increases, the number of hairs on your head decreases. All right, our last example would be a no trend. So as one thing increases, the other thing can increase or decrease. It doesn't really matter. There's not really a pattern. So the example I thought of for this one is as somebody gets older, as age increases, the number of scary movies that a person has seen would be very random. Maybe this person is not very old and they haven't seen very many scary movies, but this person is about the same age and they've seen a lot of scary movies. And so scary movies doesn't depend on your age. You don't go, oh, well, I've lived 80 years. I've seen a ton of scary movies. If you hate scary movies, you're going to avoid scary movies, and you're going to be one of these lower dots. So if each dot represented a person I asked, hey, how old are you and how many scary movies? There's no trend to something like that. You can't just say, oh, yeah, for sure. The older I get, the more scary movies I've seen. All right, you are ready for your Google Classroom questions. Go on to Google Classroom and see what they are. Good luck.